Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this conversation again this morning on the Seafarers Welfare during the time of coronavirus. Today I'm on the phone with Reverend Canon Andrew Wright, who's the Secretary General of the Mission to Seafarers in London, and Father Bruno Cicciari, who's a Scalabrinian, who's the International Director of Stella Maris at the Vatican. Hello to you both.
Hi, Jason.
Hello, Jason.
So, starting with you, Father Bruno, what are the main problems that some of your members around the world are facing? Both of you represent very large networks stretching around the world, and I'm wondering if you're hearing what are the common patterns and challenges that the chaplains, ship visitors around the world in Stella Maris are facing.
Yes, most of the ports are closed or are limiting their access to the port. So our chaplain and ship visitors, they found difficult to go to the port. But also, if they go to the port, often the seafarers are the ones that they are limiting the access of the port chaplain or ship visitor to the ship. Of course, this is logical because they are afraid of being infected, and we have to respect it. So we are kind of shifting from ship visiting to gangway visiting, or also we are shifting to a sort of a virtual chaplaincy. So we are strengthening the use of social media that have been used in the past, and now we are strengthening this use of the things. Also, the other important things that we are learning, and this will be useful in the future when we will talk with the people around the world, especially the one that have been locked down, like in Italy or in the Philippines or other parts of the world. We can share with them and say, this is the life of our seafarers. Like now in Italy, we are locked down in our house, we cannot go out, we cannot go and buy things whenever we like, so we get frustrated, we get upset, and also with our loved one, we cannot go and visit them. We have to limit our contact with them to video calls and things like that. We are experiencing this for a few weeks. The life of the seafarers when they are on board is always like that. So this should help us to think about the sufferings, the pain that often the seafarers they go through when they are working for their family. And especially in this time, the seafarers are worried about their families back in the country, especially where the virus is spreading quite quickly.
And Reverend Andrew, in your network, in the Mission to Seafarers network, what similar challenges or distinct challenges are you seeing?
Yeah, we're facing very, very similar restrictions around the world, changing every day, obviously. But during the last week, we've really seen, the closure of our ability to operate in very many of our ports. Clearly, a lot of our centres have had to close, often because local port authorities require that or governments require that. Ship visiting has become increasingly difficult. Seafarers, as we know, in many cases are not being allowed off their ships. and traditional kind of ship visitation is very difficult. We are trying to continue some level of gangway visiting where that's possible, just visiting at the bottom of the gangway, keeping our distance from seafarers, possibly leaving supplies for them if they've asked for SIM cards or whatever. That sort of thing is still able to go on in some places, but not all. So it's a very mixed picture, but broadly, we're seeing very large restrictions around the world. And I do think it's very important, actually, that a bit like the churches have had to take radical action throughout the world, closing many churches and closing for services. I think it's very important that we do observe local rules and best practice, because as part of our loving care for others, we do not want to be responsible for spreading this virus either amongst our colleagues or within ports, or especially to seafarers. And it's I'm deeply conscious, as we all are, that at this time of significant crisis, seafarers are more important than ever. We're utterly dependent on them to keep our supply lines going, to keep the food coming, to keep the medical supplies coming, and we absolutely salute their heroism in these difficult times. So we need to act very wisely, very carefully. But if we can, we're trying at Mission to Seafarers, as Father Bruno is, to keep some sort of service going in an appropriate way. But some of those appropriate ways may be radically different to the ways in which we've operated sometimes in the past.
Both of you have served as chair of the International Christian Maritime Association. Reverend Andrew, you're the current chair. Father Bruno is a past chair. In this crisis, we are seeing the value, the importance of networks, our own internal networks, but also the networks around the world. As you look at this crisis and our response to it, what do you think we can do to continue to work together between our various societies? And why is that important? Starting with Father Bruno.
Yes, I think it's very important that as ICMA we will continue to work. Cooperation is essential in this moment of crisis, because otherwise we are going to waste precious resources that we can put at the service of the seafarers. So we should coordinate all our activities, especially with you, Jason, that you are the General Secretary of ICMA, and any good idea, good practice that comes from any member of ICMA should not be kept by the member of ICMA individually, but should be shared, because what we have to look for is the good of the seafarers and the fishers, because that is also my other concern, and we have to share this good practice so that we will reach out more and more seafarers and fishers.
And Reverend Andrew, what would be your thinking about the value of working together at this time?
Well, I think working together at this time, cooperating together, coordinating is absolutely crucial, perhaps more important than it's ever been in the past. I mean, one thing that's happening, which I'm pleased about, is we all know this is a particularly difficult time for seafarers. Bruno has reminded us of some of the difficulties they're facing, anxieties about what's going on at home. Of course, many of them are unable to finish their contracts because their contracts come to an end, but they can't get home because ports and countries are closed and a lot of airlines have stopped functioning. That's a huge issue for seafarers. And I know they're having great difficulty getting new crews out to ships as well, which is a big issue. So, and of course, they're unable to access the normal welfare services and the normal port access that they would get in many places. So these are very, very difficult times indeed for them. One of the things that many have come together, including ICMA is taking a leading role in this, but also the International Chamber of Shipping, ITF, and a number of other organizations have come together to really try and fly the flag for seafarers and raise at the very highest levels together in a cooperative way what seafarers are facing and what governments need to do to facilitate their ability to change crews and access in a reasonable and proper way, the facilities they need for their well-being at a time of incredible stress. So that's an example of something which is being done together, and I'm really pleased to see that. I think Bruno has just mentioned there digital chaplaincy. I absolutely think that one of the things that perhaps we'll discover properly for the first time in these weeks and months is the value of digital work with seafarers, communicating between chaplains and teams and seafarers through social media, through various digital means. And I think is something that does need to happen on a shared level. I'm very pleased that ICMA again has taken the lead in that you, Jason, have taken a real leadership in that area. And I know that numbers of societies are contributing to that conversation. And I think some really important things are going to come out of that. And I think we all need to keep talking together at local level, of course, as ever. Different people from different chaplains and volunteers and teams from different societies need to be cooperating, and I'm sure that in many, many cases that's absolutely what's happening. So absolutely, we need to share good practice, we need to share the lessons we're learning, share new skills that we might be gaining, share the problems that we have, and share some of the solutions that we're finding to those problems. And we need to be mutually supportive. I mean, this is a time when we need to be really caring for one another, praying for one another, and supporting one another in whatever way we can.
Well, Father Bruno, Reverend Ken, and Andrew, thank you so much for your time on this call. I encourage you in your work. Thank you so much for your dedication to the cause of seafarers and fishers' welfare and the support of their families. And I pray that your work continues to flourish along with all the other members of ICMA. If anybody who's listening to this has a question, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or to Reverend Ken and Andrew or to Father Bruno. Surely all of us are ready and willing to speak to you. And I encourage you to reach out to your fellow chaplains and ship visitors out there if you know there are some are alone or are thinking, are worrying or have some fears. Call them. It's really important. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Bruno.
Thank you very much.